Chapter 57. I am happy to live in a house with 1,000 pieces of gold, and I am smiling back when I play Diaolan. It is said that there has always been a Yangfu Zen temple in Dongping Prefecture, Shandong Province. It was built in the second year of Emperor Wu of Liang Dynasty and was founded by the ancestor Wenhui. Why is it called Wenhui ancestor? Because when the ancestor was a child, he was only 7 or 8 years old. He had a brother who was in the army and could not hear from him. He did not know whether he was alive or dead. His mother's overthinking child often cries at home. Suddenly one day, the child asked his mother, "Mom, our family can survive in such a peaceful world. So why do we shed tears all the time?" "Mom, you said we can share your worries with you." I said, "Kid, how do you know? Since your old man passed away, your eldest brother went to the border to become a commander. For 4 or 5 years, there has been no letter. I don't know whether he is alive or dead. Please teach me how to survive." Then he started crying again. The child said, "It's so difficult to wait for a long time. Mom, where is my brother now? Isn't it good for us younger brothers to go out morning and evening to catch my brother and ask for a letter to reply to you?" Then, the mother-in-law cried at one end and laughed at the other, and said, "You idiot, if your brother only has a distance of 1,200 miles, he can go straight to the land of Liaodong. He can go here for more than 10,000 miles. Even a good man can walk 4 or 5 miles. The month has just arrived. How did you get to your child's home?" The child said, "Well, if Gur is in Liaodong, he will not be in the sky. I will go to find my brother and then come back." I saw him. After tying her shoes, straightening her straight hair, she bowed to her mother-in-law and left in a hurry. The mother-in-law didn't respond to her calls and couldn't catch up, which made her even more depressed. There were also neighbors, mothers-in-law and women who came to try and persuade me, saying, "My child is young. How can I go so far? I will go back in the morning and evening." Therefore, my mother-in-law sat there in silence with tears in her eyes. Look at the red sun setting in the west. The mother-in-law looked out and saw a small child coming in the dark shadow in the distance. The mother-in-law said, "I rely on the sky, the earth, and the 3 lights of the sun and the moon. If my youngest son comes, my idea of practicing vegetarianism will not be in vain." I saw the Wenhui ancestor suddenly knelt down in front of me and said, "Mom, are you still awake? We have gone to Liaodong to look for my brother and ask for a safe letter from home." The mother-in-law said with a smile, "My dear, it's just a good idea that you don't go, so that I don't have to worry about you. Just don't panic," coaxing me to do it. "Who has traveled 10,000 miles to go back and forth day and night?" The boy said, "Mom, don't you believe it?" He took off his clothes and back and took out the letter from Ping'an. It was indeed written by his brother. He took out another sweatshirt and took it back to be starched and washed. It was also sewn by my mother-in-law, and it was accurate to every detail. Therefore, it stirred up the neighborhood and called it Wenhui. In the future, when he leaves the secular world and becomes a monk, he will be called Elder Wenhui. Sure enough, he has superb morals and great supernatural powers. He once swallowed 2 liters of iron needles in front of Emperor Shihu of Huzhou, and took out 3 relics from the top of his head in front of Emperor Wu of Liang. Therefore, we ordered to build Yangfu Zen Temple as the incense courtyard of Wenhui Patriarch, which cost an unknown amount of money and food. It's exactly this. The divine monk was born with great supernatural powers, and the Holy Lord was revered and holy. I don't want time to pass by and things change with time. After the ancestors passed away thousands of times, some of the masters who were skinny and fleshy disappeared one by one. There are only a few tired monks who support their wives, eat soju, and do nothing. In a few days, the cassocks were pawned, the bells and chimes were pawned, and the rafters, bricks and tiles in the palace were exchanged for wine and eaten. The rain and wind blew, the Buddha statues fell over, and the place was desolate and desolate, turning the bell and drum dojo into a desolate place of smoke and decaying grass. 30 or 40 years, that one is willing to support the weak and uplift the weak. I don't want to have a Taoist elder who was originally from the West Indian country. Because he admired Tsinghua University in China, He traveled from Liushe and Xingshuhai for 8 or 9 years before arriving in China. When I came to Shandong after a long journey, I found Shuoxi in this dilapidated temple, facing the wall for 9 years without saying a word. The truth is, Buddhism has no textual barriers, and I have to work hard to find good concentration. Suddenly one day I had an idea and said, this temple is in ruins. These stupid dogs and bald donkeys who can't even eat and drink have left this ancient Buddhist ashram bare and white. Isn't it a pity? Today, if we don't make the decision, which one will make the decision? If we don't take the lead, which one will take the lead? Shandong, there is a high-ranking official from Ximen who holds the position of Jinyi. He has a fortune of tens of millions and is richer than a prince. The day before yesterday, he gave Kai Yashi a farewell gift, once held a banquet here. When he saw the temple in ruins, he had the idea of rebuilding it. If he can advocate for the Lord, he will accomplish our good deeds sooner or later. We must go and have a visit. At that time, he summoned his disciples and disciples beat the bells and drums, gathered the people, and went to the hall to publicize this idea. How can the elder dress up? But see, the Zen clothes on his body are stained with blood, and the double-ringed earrings are made of gold. The tin stick in his hand is as bright as a mirror, and 108 pearls shine brightly in the sun. Open the cash rope on the road to enlightenment, and even ordinary people will wake up from their dreams. He has swollen eyebrows, cyanotic hair, and copper bell eyes. He is said to be an old holy monk from the West. After the elder finished preaching, he asked the traveler to take the 4 treasures of the study and write an essay. Good elder, it is really the ancient Buddha and Bodhisattva who has appeared. So he left the crowd, put on his Zen shoes and a bamboo hat, and ran straight to Simon King's house. Simon King said goodbye to Earl Ying, went to Wu Yunyang's room, told Earl Ying about recommending scholars, and then said, "We went to Tokyo the day before yesterday, and many relatives and friends came to hold a candle with us. Now there are many who are missing. I have to drink to answer him. When I have free time today, I will finish this matter immediately." He called Dan and ordered the comprador to prepare rice and so on. He also ordered the boys to go separately to invite everyone. While pulling Yunyang, she walked to Li Pingera's room to see Brother Guan. Li Pinger caught it with a smile and asked her breasts to carry Brother Guan out. I saw sparse eyebrows, as if they were made up of powder, and she smiled cheerfully, straight into Yunyang's arms. Yunyang took her hand, picked it up and said, "My son, you are such a good boy. When you grow up, you will be smart and smart." Then she said to the child, "Son, when you grow up, you will be able to support my mother." Li Pinger said, "What did you say to me? If your son grows up and asks for an official position, he will first give it to his superiors. That phoenix crown and harem will go to his mother first," Simon King said easily. He said, "Son, when you grow up, you will earn a civil service. Don't follow the example of your father, who is from Spain. Although he is interested, he doesn't respect him very much." As he was saying this, Pan Junlian didn't want to hear it outside, but she didn't realize it. Angry in his heart, he cursed, "You are a shameless, stinking prostitute who has weakened your spleen, but you know how to raise a son. You have never passed 3 yellow plums and for summer solstices, and you have never grown up to be 15 or 16 years old." He passed the customs and went to school, but he was still a blister. He was raised here with King Yama. How could he be an official? How could he be appointed as a civil servant? Don't be like you. While he was chattering, muttering, cursing, and feeling annoyed, Diane came in and called out Wu Niang and said, "Where is Dad?" Pan Junlian then he scolded, "You weird-mouthed thief and prisoner. Where is your father, Shao? Why did you come to my house? He has his own great-grandmother, an old lady with 5 official titles, and 8 treasures and 5 tripods to support him. Where are you, asking me for help?" Then Diane knew that the road was no longer there, and left after looking at Liu Niang's room. Walking to the door of the room, he coughed and said to Simon King, "Ying's second father is in the hall." Simon King said, "Ying's second father sent him there. What did he do?" Dan said, "Dad will find out when we get out." Simon King had no choice but to leave Yunyang and Li Pinger and walk outside. Seeing the Earl, he was about to ask questions when he saw that the Taoist elder who had been recruiting people had already arrived at the head of JinPingMei. He shouted loudly, "Amitabha, is this the head of the Ximen family?" The steward in charge informed me and said, "Support Guizi, protect Lan's son, pray for good fortune, pray for longevity." Tokyo fundraising. The elder asked for an audience. It turned out that Simon Kingping was a man who used to make money and was a new official. He was very happy and wanted to do some good things to protect his children. The boys knew it well and did not make it difficult. They went in to report to Simon King. Simon King said, "Let him come in and take a look." After a while, he invited the elder into the flower hall, made an inquiry, and said the poor monk was born in the West Indian country, traveled to Beyondling, Tokyo, and Chuo Shizen and Yang for the temple has been facing the wall for 9 years, which is quite impressive. Until the temple collapsed and the Lin Palace collapsed, the poor monk remembered that as a disciple of the Buddha, he should contribute to the Buddha, so the poor monk came up with this idea. The day before yesterday, Lao Tanyu paid a farewell visit. "Dear fathers, when I felt sorry for the ruins of this temple, I also had a good conscience and wanted to make the decision with this temple." At that time, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas had already made a witness alliance. The Buddhist scriptures recorded by the poor monk said, "Well, if there is a good man in the world, a good man, if a woman is happy to give up a stately Buddha statue with money, the owner will win the honor of Yu Lanson, who will be dignified and beautiful. She will be admitted to the imperial examination early in the future, and she will be granted the title of wife." Therefore, she specially knocked on the high gate, not limited to 500,000, and asked Lao Tan to open her hair, heart, achieve good results. He unfolded the brocade handkerchief, took out the book of collecting fate, and handed it over with both hands. Unexpectedly, those words had already moved Simon King's heart, and he happily accepted the book and asked the boy to watch tea. When I opened the book, I saw the following writing. Fu used the White Horse Camel Sutra to start the Xiang sect, and Chu Teng started the sect by developing the Dharma. All the monks on the earth have taken refuge in the Buddha. All the 3,000 worlds are orchid and solemn. See how the ruins turned into a famous mountain and scenic spot. If you are not compassionate and willing to give up, how can you call a Buddhist a benevolent person? Today there is the Yangfu Zen Temple, the ancient Buddhist ashram, and the blessed land of burning cultivation. It was founded by Emperor Wu of Liang Dynasty and the founder of Wanhui Mountain. The regulations are magnificent, just like the gold paving the ground of the solitary garden. The carved towers are exquisite, vaguely like the white jade steps of Aswanj. The high pavilion is in the sky, and the sandalwood energy reaches directly to the sky. The layers are on the ground, and the main hall can accommodate thousands of Zen monks. The two towering wings are full of palaces and blue sky. The corridors are clean, and they are indeed as beautiful as the cave sky. At that time, the bells and drums preached that the Tao was the Buddhist kingdom in the world. Only this jade streamed to Chu, but it was also like the world of humans and heaven. Who knows that as time goes by, things change in an instant. The reckless monk indulged in drunkenness and violated the rules. The stupid Taoist was lazy and greedy for sleep, and could not clean up. He gradually became lonely and cut off his disciples. He became desolate and seldom looked up to him. At the same time, it is crowded by birds and mice, and it can be shaken by wind and rain. Buildings are crumbling, 1 by 2, 2 by 3, supporting the whole plan. Walls are crumbling, day after day, year after year, with no one to stand up. The vermilion lattice wooden wood was picked up to simmer wine and tea, hacked the pillars and exchanged for salt and rice. The wind blows, and the gold of our hat disappears, and the rain hits Amitabha and turns it into dust. Sigh, Jinbi Firecun is dazzling, once it is filled with bushes and thorns. Although there are successes and failures, there must be peace in the end. Fortunately, there were Taoist elders who were very pious and could not bear to see the Brahma Palace in ruins. Make great aspiration and count out a Tanana everywhere. I'm willing to be compassionate and full of compassion. Beams, pillars and rafters, no matter how big or small, They are always inscribed with their surnames, silver coins, and cloth coins, regardless of whether they are rich or not, are put into the cabinet and marked with their names. Relying on the mighty spirit of the Buddha, you will be blessed with good fortune and longevity for hundreds of years. Relying on the Tagalan mirror, your father, sons, and grandsons will all be well-paid and high-ranking officials. The melons are us, and the 3 locust trees and 5 osmanthus trees stand tall. The gates are full of flowers, and the Jinfuqianshan is brilliant. Whatever you seek, may you be blessed with good luck. As soon as the sparse articles arrive, everyone loses his heart. Please be careful. After Simon King looked at it, he put it on the table respectfully and said to the elder, "To be honest, although I am not a wealthy family, I still have tens of thousands of properties and hold a military position. I don't want to do something that I am so old and have never given birth to a son." Good results. Last year, the 6th wife gave birth to a child, so everything is enough for us. Occasionally, as a gift to a friend, I went to the top of the temple. Seeing the dilapidated character of the temple, I actually had the idea of giving up my money to help with the construction. If the teacher looks down on you, then you dare to refuse. Holding the rabbit hairpin. While hesitating, Earl Ying said, "Brother, since you have such a good intention to make a wish for your nephew, why not do it alone? It is also a small matter." Simon King held the pen and said with a smile, "Weak power, weak power." The Earl added, "A few can help 1,000. Simon King laughed again and said, "Weak strength, weak strength." The elder then opened his mouth and said, "Old Tanyu is above me. It's not like a poor monk talks too much. Our Buddhist way of doing things is as long as we rejoice and give up according to circumstances, and we don't force others to do anything. We just rely on my father's determination." In addition, relatives and friends even asked Tanyu to brag. Simon King said, "It's still the size of a teacher. Less is not enough, so just write 500 taels." Putting down the rabbit hairpin, the elder inquired and thanked him. Simon King added, "My internal officials, eunuchs, and prefecture and county warehouse inspectors all like me. I will take the book tomorrow to ask them to write. When I write it, I don't think it's just 300, 200 or 150. Guan King and the teacher will accomplish this good thing." On that day, I kept the elder in Suzai and sent him off. It is exactly the same as benevolent. Do good things for the family, protect blessings, and eliminate disasters. Parents' heart. Simon King saw off the elder, turned to the hall, sat down with Earl Ying, and said, "I was about to send someone to invite you, and you came just in time. I went to Tokyo the day before yesterday. I would like to thank all my relatives and friends for sharing a drink with me. I have arranged a small drink with you today." Everyone replied that they wanted the second brother to stay with me. They didn't want to meet this elder and fool around for a while. The Earl then said, "What a good elder. I think he is really virtuous." As he was speaking, even we were moved and did the same. "Donor," Simon King said, "when did you become a benefactor? When did you write the book?" Earl Ying smiled and said, "Brother, you don't know, the first priority in the Buddhist scriptures is the donation of the heart, and the second priority is the donation of the Dharma. The third thing is giving money. Could it be that I am encouraging you from the side and don't give it from your heart?" Simon King said with a smile, "Second brother, I'm afraid you mean what you say but don't mean what you say." The two clapped their hands and laughed. And Earl Ying said, "Little brother, I'm waiting for the guests here. I have business to discuss with my sister-in-law." I saw Simon King bid farewell to the count and went to the inner courtyard. I saw Pan Junlian chattering, not picking or picking, and the Sandman was unconscious. After pestering him, he snorted a few times, walked to the room, fell down on the ivory bed and fell asleep. Leaping or cried for the child again, and she sat on the floor with her breasts and maid in the room, watching the official brother. Only Wu Yunyang and Senzue watched the whole meal. Simon King walked up to the person sitting in front of him and told him in detail about the Taoist elder's efforts to establish a relationship with him. He also said what Earl Ying was joking about. With great joy, everyone laughed for a while. After all, Wu Yunyang was a serious person. She calmly said a few words and Simon King was convinced. Exactly. Every time a rooster crows the alarm, a wise wife always hears the words of medicine and stone. Yunyang said, "Brother, you are so blessed to have given birth to a child. You also have kind thoughts. Won't it be a blessing for our family to have a good relationship? It's just that the good thoughts are not afraid of him, and the evil thoughts are afraid of him. No end. Brother, in the future, you should do less of those things where you don't come back. Don't raise a mother-in-law seriously. And don't take advantage of others who are greedy for money and lust. But don't. San do some dirty tricks, even with that kid." Simon King laughed. Said, "Your jealous words are here again. But you don't know that there is yin and yang in heaven and earth, and men and women naturally cooperate. Those who have affairs and have sexual relations in this life are all determined in the previous life. Their names are written in the marriage book. Is it possible that they will return in this life? Is it made by scratching and twisting round? We heard that the Buddha in the West is not only asking for gold to pave the ground, but also the 10 palaces of the underworld are also asking for some things. We just need to use up all this property and spread it for good deeds. Even if I raped Jenny, raped the weaver girl, abducted Su Feiqiang, and stole the daughter of the Queen Mother of the West, it would not diminish my wealth." Yunyang said with a smile, "A dog eats hot feces. It tastes sweet. How can it be changed if raw blood falls into the teeth?" While she was laughing, she saw Aunt Wang and Aunt Su carrying a box. He broken, asked Yunyang for information, then bowed to Simon King, and said, "Dad, you are lying at home." Yunyang offered to sit down. The judge heard that it turned out that Aunt Su had not been a monk since she was a child. She had married her husband when she was young and sold steamed cakes in front of Guangzheng Temple. Unexpectedly, the business was shallow, and he flirted and flirted with the monks and traveling boys in the temple, and got into trouble 4 or 5 times. There are often some steamed bread offerings brought to him, and those who should pay him money to buy flowers and open hell cloth given to him to bind his feet. How does his husband know? Later, when her husband fell ill and died, he became a sister-in-law because of their close relationship with Buddhism. He devoted himself to visiting the houses of ladies and gentlemen, taking charge of Buddhist scriptures and confessions. There are also those women who are not mature and want to steal men, and they ask him to lead them away. I heard that Simon King's family was rich, had many concubines, and wanted to spend some money, so they visited frequently. There is a singer who said it well, "Nuns are born with bald scalps, and monks are busy every night." The 3 bald heads look like master and junior brother, but where are the symbols in the bed? Aunt Su sat down, opened the small box, and said, "If we don't have any filial piety, we can only give the master a few fruits for the Buddha, so we should present them as new ones." Yunyang said, "If you come, you will come on your own. Why should you bother? I saw Pan Jinlian sleeping, heard someone talking outside, and thought it was the previous scene, so I came forward to listen." Seeing Li Ping'er having a baby in the room, knowing that Aunt Wang was here, she also wanted to discuss with him to protect Brother Guan. Because they walked to Yunyang's room together, everyone wished him good luck and sat down on his own. When Simon King saw Li Ping'er coming, he talked about the elder's efforts to make money with his family and seek blessings for his brother Guan. Not wanting to annoy Pan Jinlian, she pulled away and walked away, muttering to herself. After hearing this, Aunt Su stood up, clasped her hands and shouted, "Buddha, Dad, if you are so kind-hearted, you may not live to be 1,000 years old, with 5 boys and 2 girls, and 7 sons reunited. It's just that I have one more thing to tell you, old man. This does not cost much and will bring you immeasurable blessings." "Hey, Lao Tanyu, how much do you think of this merit?" Even if Lao Kutan cultivates Taoism in the snow mountain, Kashyapa spreads his hair on the ground. The second patriarch throws himself off a cliff to feed tigers and gives the old man the land full of gold. It can't compare to your merits. Simon King smiled and said, "Sit down and tell me your merits in detail, and I will follow you." Aunt Su said, "Our Buddha left behind a volume of the Dara Sutra, specifically advising people to live in the Western Pure Land. because ordinary people with the naked eye cannot have respect and faith. The Buddha expounded this sutra and advised you to concentrate on reciting the Buddha's name, go to the West, and never fall into reincarnation. The Buddha said, well, if someone recites this sutra, or prints and copies this sutra, and encourages one person to tens of millions of people to recite it, they will receive immeasurable blessings. Moreover, this sutra also contains the sutra of protecting all young children. Anyone who wants to give birth to a boy or girl must be determined from this point on, so that they can grow up easily and be raised easily, and disasters can be eliminated and blessings can come. Nowadays, no one has printed and executed this sutra tablet. Dad just needs to scrape some materials, print thousands of volumes, bind them, and distribute them everywhere. That merit is really great. Simon King said, "This is not difficult. I just don't know how many papers, how many bindings, how many printings are needed for this volume of scripture. I need to have a detailed number to make it easy to move." Ansu said again, "Dad, you go and calculate him carefully." Jixiao first pays 9 taels of silver and asks the scripture workshop to print tens of millions of scrolls and have them fully bound. Then, you can pay him back as soon as the fruit is stirred up. While they were talking about the excitement, Chen Jingji was about to talk to Simon King. And when he found himself under the rolling shed, he happened to meet Pan Jinlian leaning on the railing alone. He suddenly raised his head and saw Jingji, just like a cat seeing fish and rice. And suddenly the day's depression was turned into a spring breeze. When the two saw that no one was coming, they held hands and hugged each other, licking their lips and smacking their tongues. The two were stubborn for a while, but they were afraid that Simon King would come out and bump into them. So they didn't even mention the matter of settling accounts. His eyes were like a mouse guarding a cat. He looked around and found it inconvenient to do something, so he had to go out in a hurry. After hearing what Ansu said, Simon King felt kin-hearted again, so he asked Dianan to take the worship box, took out a letter of 30 taels of silver, and handed it to Ansu and Aunt Wang. "Even if we go to the temple together, in the workshop, print 5,000 volumes of scriptures with me, and when you're done, I'll find him to settle the account." While we were talking, the book boy came hurriedly to report, "All the invited guests have arrived. The most important ones are Uncle Wu, Uncle Hua, Zaida, and Chang Jiji." Simon King hurriedly dressed and went out to greet Chang Dang. He asked the boy to set down the table and asked everyone to divide the group into classes and tell where the elders and younger ones would sit. After a while, big fish, meat, and fresh fruits were all brought out. I only saw a close friend after drinking, and I forgot all my traces. Those who guess coins, those who play drums, those who urge flowers, those who punch and lie, those who sing and sing. The scenes of stubborn teenagers are artless, and the sun and moon in the drunken country cannot be compared. It's just that there are autumn moon and spring flowers everywhere, and they are all enjoyable at the same time.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.